Our Chase team has reached Colin Clarke in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's the Director of Policy and Research at the Soufan Group, which is a think tank. And Colin, I want to get right to it. You know, over the past number of years, we've all become familiar with the Taliban. We've become familiar with Al-Qaeda, and then ISIS, and the Haqqani Group, and now there's ISIS-K. Help me to understand. ISIS-K, how does it differ from what we've known about those other groups?
Well, ISIS-K is an offshoot, an affiliate, a franchise, or a branch of the Islamic State, that core group in the Levant, in Iraq and Syria. ISIS followed a similar trajectory to Al-Qaeda, where they decentralized and they opened branches from North Africa to Southeast Asia.
Understand it. There is the Taliban. They are terrorists, but it appears that people within the Taliban who do not believe their organization is extreme enough go to ISIS-K. Is that the case?
Yeah, ISIS poaches the most hardcore of the hardcore, the most hardened sociopaths, and that's why we see them targeting maternity wards as they did last year. They are looking to bring into the organization the most bloodthirsty human beings on this planet. But I do want to make one clarification. ISIS-K is extreme. The Taliban's not that far behind them, so we shouldn't be labeling them moderate or giving them a pass. Soufan, I'm not saying you did that. I've seen other elements of the media saying, well, the Taliban's moderate. Look, when you're moderate compared to ISIS, you're still pretty extreme.
And you know what? That's what I want to get at with you, because now we're hearing this, I don't want to say conciliatory tone, but a tone of coordination with the Taliban. Is the tone the right one that you're hearing when we're talking about terrorists?
In a word, no. I understand what the administration is doing. Right now, they're depending on the Taliban, as scary as that is, to help manage security in and around the airport. They need the Taliban's cooperation to get Afghans and Americans out of the country. And so I think that's partially responsible for some of the rhetoric that we're hearing. But make no mistake, this is a terrorist organization that's now in control of the state.
Then on the ground, if, we battled with the Taliban or the Americans did for 20 years, is there now going to be a Taliban ISIS-K battle that you'll be watching? How do you see that playing out if the two are, enemies, if you will?
Quite likely. That's likely what we'll see next in this broader Afghan civil war. I expect the Taliban to get the better of ISIS-K, just qualitatively and quantitatively superior. And frankly, these are ethnic, they're Afghans. ISIS-K are a transnational group, and they don't necessarily have the same toehold in the country that the Taliban does. They'll put up a fight, they'll make it difficult, and they'll play the role of spoiler. But at the end of the day, the Taliban's likely to crush ISIS-K.
And should we be happy about that?
Look, I mean, you're picking from bad situations. Yeah. I would never root for the Taliban, but I think the Taliban crushing ISIS-K is better than the alternative, which is some kind of rapprochement between the Taliban and ISIS-K. Because keep in mind, the Taliban is allies with the Haqqani network. In fact, Haqqani is part of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And so if ISIS-K were to merge, again, I think it's extremely unlikely, but not impossible, you'd be looking at some kind of jihadi superstate.
Wow. So what are you going to be watching for then? I mean, what is it that keeps you up at night as you watch this story unfold, as you hear about the bomb that went off yesterday, 13 of your U.S. military members, dozens of others injured, killed? What do you think?
That's what keeps me up at night, the death of Americans and the death of Afghan civilians and innocents that are simply trying to flee their country. It's heartbreaking. And I think we're all looking to President Biden for leadership right now. Whatever you think of withdrawal as a policy, the evacuation has been haphazard. It's been poorly planned and poorly executed. And I think we need to figure out how to right the ship, and we need to do it immediately.
Well, that's the big question. How do you right the ship instead of scuttling it?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that the DOD with the White House have likely been working on, nonstop since yesterday's attack. We can get into revisionist history and Monday morning quarterbacking and say,
Yeah.
the president ordered with the withdrawal in April. Planning should have began immediately. We should have been moving people out of the country. Why did we wait until August?
Final question for you. Other countries are watching very closely. I mean, China, Russia. Are you also watching their reaction?
Yeah, naturally. I think, one of the reasons the president gave for pulling out of Afghanistan was because the U.S. needed to focus less on counterterrorism and more on what he calls great power competition. So, competition with Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, other near-peer adversaries. But Afghanistan is great power competition. With the U.S. leaving, all of those countries, as well as Iran and Turkey and India, Pakistan, everyone is going to look to increase their own influence, sponsor their own proxy groups, and the U.S. is left, after 20 years spilling blood and treasure, with almost nothing.
You know what? The speed of it, everybody keeps talking about it. 20 years of war, Colin, and 11 days to reverse it all. I'm sure you must be speaking with your colleagues and, perhaps former military members. And is it as gut-wrenching as everybody says?
As you could imagine, it's a very tough time. Among certain communities, but I also don't want to overlook the pain and suffering of Afghans and Afghan civilians. They're the ones that are suffering the most. And I think, we need to keep that in the forefront of our mind as we watch what's happening.
I want to thank you for your time, and you be well, Colin.
Thank you.
Colin Clarke in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He is the Director of Policy and Research at the Soufan Group.